All right, jumping back into round two of my Charlotte Chess Open tournament. I finished the first round 1-1, so won one game, lost one game. Both were black. Coming in, I assumed that I was gonna have the white games, and as it turns out, I got two games as white. We're gonna do a quick recap of both the games, starting out with the first game. I was playing against Samuel. He was an 1139. I open with my typical e4. He plays e5, and then I play knight c3. Now, I did a lot of opening prep with this opening called the Vienna, and opponent knows what he's doing, plays knight f6, which goes straight into the prep, and then after f4, there's a lot of moves that you can do here. You can play here, you can play here, you can play here. So you have to learn a lot of variations from this position. Opponent plays d5, which is the main line, and basically the position goes takes, knight f3, or queen f3, knight takes, and then after here, there's a couple different things that black can do. He decides to play knight c6, which isn't quite the best move. It's a little bit slow. Basically, black wants to develop. Black either wants to maybe even come in with like a check with the queen. Black needs to play a little bit aggressive here. And he allows me to put my pawn here on d4, getting kind of the really good pawn structure here. And then basically what my game plan is, I need to develop, he needs to develop, so that's pretty much what we do. Brings his bishop out, I bring my bishop out, he brings his bishop out, I bring my knight out. And then here, opponent thought for about 40 minutes. So put in a decent amount of time. Everybody starts out with an hour and 40 minutes on the clock. And he, right at, I think it was like 50 minutes he had left on the clock when he went to make his move. And he played f6, which again it's very slow. Like black, he really wants to castle. I think best move that the computer said was to move the queen up to d7 and then to castle king side, kind of away from my attack. But he played this, which is really slow, which allowed me to get this tempo with my knight. So I was able to come in here. He castles, trying to get his king to safety. And then I take here with the bishop. Only move that he can do in order to try to gain back the piece is to take with the pawn. And then I play queen g4. And here the eval bar is showing 5.2 for white, because I have a lot of threats here. I can play like bishop takes, and then he can't take back with the pawn because my queen is, staring down the king, so the pawn is pinned. So if you try to do something like this to try to, protect everything that's happening here, my queen can come in and take this very weak pawn, also checking, and then I can play here with my queen, which is staring down these squares, and because of the bishop here, I also am looking for a checkmate here after your king moves here, or after your rook comes here to block the check. So there's a lot of threats going on here, and opponent again took about 20 minutes here. So I have about an hour and 25 minutes left on my clock. Opponent has about 30. So at this point in the game, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I can almost beat this guy on the clock if I play relatively fast. He starts taking longer and longer to make moves. I'm gonna have the time advantage basically on my side. And after about 20 minutes of a think here, my opponent resigned. So really great game here. A lot of opening prep. I felt really good about the game, and a lot of kind of an interesting game. Very short, 12 move game. But it took 2 hours to play 12 moves. So going into the next game, so far in the tournament, I've won 2, lost 1, and I was playing Eric, who's in 1161, and again, I play E4, and here he plays C6, which I didn't prep for this, but he's playing a Carl Khan, so I play D4, trying to take control of the center. He plays D5, very typical. I push, he pushes, I push, and we get some sort of structure like this. I decide to bring my bishop out, pinning the knight to the king, so the knight can't come in here and have these attacks where, you know, pawn takes, and then, you know, knight can't come down and take at that point because he's pinned. And I just decide I don't want to deal with all that, so I just decided to take the knight. And it was a little bit of a mistake by me, and it kind of gives black an advantage, because after knight here, I'm trying to castle, and he's able to play this move, which, because in castling, king would go here and rook would come here, but then the bishop is kind of keeping me from castling. So at this point, I wasn't too excited about that, and I knew that I was going to have to do something major, because there's not a great way to block the bishop, except for maybe even undeveloping the knight and then bringing it back and then doing something like that. And I was thinking about those type of moves, and I really didn't want to get into all that. The other thing I was a little bit scared of was him potentially like coming here, taking the pawn, and then like if I took back, then black bishop's coming in here, queen's coming in here, and then you have this big battery going up against the king. My king can't really go anywhere because again the bishop's coming here. So black's slightly winning. There are some things that I can do, but you know, I'm gonna have to be really careful. I bring out my black bishop, trying to kind of you know, avoid this sort of thing. And after he plays this move, it opens up this diagonal. So I decide to immediately take advantage of this. Computer says best move here is b4 or queen a4 here, attacking the bishop and then also attacking this weak pawn. But I play I think third best move here, and this does give black quite a little bit of advantage, but it's a little bit tricky because what I want to have happen is my queen to come here, and then if he pushes, I can take it with the knight, because the pawn can't take back, because then I'm attacking the rook, or here, and then force the king to kind of move off in this direction into like his bad pawn structure over here, where then eventually I'll be able to castle kingside and then push these pawns up towards this king. Anyway, he plays here, 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 and then takes, and then that's when I'm able to play this queen up into the h5. And what the computer wants is black's king just to run over here. He plays the lot more human move, which is g6. At this point I can't take it with the knight, because then he's just going to come back and take it with the bishop. But I also have this pretty nice queen move here, which both is threatening here with check, threatening the rook, threatening to come over here. There's a lot of threats here in this position. And he finds the best move, queen out, and simply just trying to trade queens. And after a couple moves, we trade queens. I come in here, and after some more trading, basically, my position right here looked really solid, because I have this pawn, and he's able to defend both this square and this square. It's called an outpost. So there's no pawns, like he doesn't have a pawn here which can push up and, you know, attack the bishop, or, you know, he doesn't have a, like, if this pawn was back here, then the pawn would be able to move up and again attack the bishop, but he doesn't have any of that. So my pieces can just kind of sit here, and, you know, they have these beautiful little diagonals that he can't put any of the squares in, because then I can just take them. So with all that being said, I move my knight here, looking forward to doing this, but then he plays this move, and This move initially looks pretty gnarly because he's threatening to come here and check the king, but then also attack the rook, getting a nice fork. And then after my king moves, he just takes the rook. Or if, for instance, my king goes here, attacking both the knight and defending the square, then he can come in and just snag a free pawn. And then maybe his rook's gonna come in and snag this free pawn after that. And you know, my position starts to kind of crumble. I played the best move, which is just f2. And you know, if he came back down here, black's knight is almost getting trapped. But I can play rook here, which is then also seeing this kind of weak pawn up here. So he decides to go with this move. And then after here, attacking the bishop. Bishop moves back, defending the weak pawn, which also the knight is also attacking. I attack the knight. Knight comes in and takes the bishop. Pawn comes in. And basically here, developing the rooks, putting them in the center, getting everything settled. And then with this move here, I was thinking that he was also kind of looking at this square to move the rook into. But then I can just take the pawn. And then I'm also bringing my rook in to this back diagonal. And it's pinning the bishop. And then black has a lot of problems. So basically what I want to do is somehow get my rooks back here into these two. Kind of back by his king. And then see if I can snag some of these very weak pawns kind of in his structure. And black is having a really difficult time trying to get into my structure, right? Because, you know, even if you do come in, you know, my rooks are defending and everything. Here, all of my pawns are defending all of these squares. So, black has some problems here, and it's why the eval bar kind of likes my position a little bit better. I have a little bit of an advantage. And he decides to move his rook back over here, as you can see. And then once he's able to do that, that kind of gives my bishop free range to kind of come over here and pick off his position. So with that, I decided to break up the pawns, bring my rook in, and then I'm able to, it looks like I'm just giving up a free knight, taking this piece here. But not quite so simple, because if black takes back here, you know, I've got the check, and then I can take, and then I can take this pawn, and things are looking pretty grim for black. So he decides not to take. Sorry, I gotta adjust my computer screen a little bit. Decides not to take, text the knight, and then I play here, and there's a lot of things happening in this position. So first off, if my knight moves, then the rook is checking the king. If this bishop, for instance, comes in here and takes, then I can take this, or I can take with check, and then after takes, come in here and take. So he finds the best move, which is actually here, attacking both the rook and the knight. Come in, I check, and after he moves away, I take the rook, he takes the rook, so we basically trade rooks. And then, you know, my goal here, snag the weak pawns, and then keep these two pieces at bay. Also, right now he's attacking the pawn, so after he moves the bishop away, I have to push it up. And then, because my knight is just golden right here at this square, try to keep these pieces like fixed on this pawn. You know, I can come in here and snag his pawns, and then maybe queen with some of my pawns. So moves go on, snag the free pawn, move my king into the center, and then kind of force black to take that pawn, because otherwise I would just promote with my a pawn. And after trades, you know, I force black's king all the way over to this side to get the a pawn. And then once he takes that, now I know all I have to do, get rid of this pawn, and then use these two pawns to go down and make a queen. And after here it takes, and here, thus begins the running of the pawns. So Finally make a queen. I got about 2 minutes left on the clock right now. And actually, it was kind of funny because my opponent leans over and says, "Do you think you can checkmate me in 2 minutes?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can." So he was like, "All right, let's do it." So opponent normally would resign, but he decided to play on. Just, you never know what's gonna happen. And and eventually, yeah, I do get the checkmate, and that was the end of the game. So end of day 2, 3 wins, 1 loss. I was feeling really, really good and really, really solid. Going into day 4, I figured I would have 1 black game, 1 white game. Fortunately, I was mistaken. I ended up having 2 black games, which is kind of unfortunate because I did a lot of prep for white, and there was a lot of prep that I wasn't able to play, but, you know, hopefully I can play in the next tournament. And that night I played a Blitz tournament, and I ended up winning. I think I won 3 games, lost 3 games. I think I won my first 3 games, then I lost the last 3. So kind of unfortunate, but honestly, I really enjoyed the Blitz. That was a lot of fun. But anyway, I'll see you in the next day 3.